company through employee stock purchase plans and defined contribution plans are feeling the pain. This comes in the wake of several similar 401k failings. So we really learned anything? Joining us with more now, Edward Seidel, president of Benchmark Financial Services, which investigates money management abuses. He's also a former SEC attorney. Mr. Seidel, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you with us. Have we, in fact, failed to learn the lessons of Enron, WorldCom, and others with respect to companies really doing their financial duty by their employees?
Well, we haven't, but you have to understand that pension funds move at a glacial pace, so
that doesn't excuse it, though, does it? I mean, that shouldn't excuse it.
Absolutely not. I couldn't agree with you more. There are fiduciary duties that apply, and the people who run these funds should be more on top of things. Unfortunately, the reality is that things move very slowly, and I would say that almost no pensions have implemented the lessons of Enron or the lessons of the mutual fund scandals or even the more recent lessons of conflicts of interest in insurance.
Very interesting story by the Pulitzer Prize winner Gretchen Morgenson in this morning's New York Times talking about Marsh McLennan and the fact that 60% of one defined benefit or 401k plan, a defined contribution plan, was 60% of it was in Marsh McLennan's stock. That makes no sense, does it?
Well, it certainly would seem to be very high concentration, and it would seem to be against the rules of diversification.
Would you ever put 60% of your money in one stock? You personally?
No, I personally wouldn't do that.
What should companies?
But again, many of.
Why are companies loath to execute or to discharge their fiduciary responsibility? Or they just don't. They don't want to have any. The employer doesn't want to take any fiduciary responsibility, do they?
The employer doesn't, and then you also have conflicts of interest. Obviously, when you're talking about the employer's stock, you're going to be looking, you have a conflict of interest because the person running the pension fund 99 times out of 100 is an employee of the employer, so that company's stock is going to end up in the pension fund. And in the financial services area, the mutual funds offered in a 401k, no surprise, are also going to be the mutual funds that the employer manages.
As was the case in this instance where Marsh & McLennan, which is the parent company of Putnam, almost all or a lion's share of the mutual fund money or offerings were Putnam offerings owned by Marsh & McLennan. And implicated also, by the way, heavily in the mutual fund scandal that the Spitzer went after, right?
Yeah, and also you have Mercer Investment Consulting serving as the investment consultant to the fund. So as a fiduciary, you have to ask yourself, is this the best mutual fund company, the best financial advisor we could find, or could we have found another firm that didn't have any scandals and wasn't the subject of any conflict of interest?
When you were with
and you have to also look at performance.
Yeah, when you were with the SEC,
how's the performance of the fund?
Did you find lots of companies with this kind of rot in them?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
That's comforting.
Conflict of interest. Sorry.
I said that's comforting.
Well, we shouldn't feel comfortable about the nation's pension funds. I mean, both on the defined benefit and the defined contribution side, we've got major problems. We've got conflicts of interest, unrealistic actuarial assumptions. We've got wrongdoing by money managers. We've got the funds are delving into pension funds are delving into hedge funds, venture capital. So, there's a lot of reasons to be worried.
So you say that you saw lots of instances of this kind of rot where there was kind of incestuous relationships and self-dealing and so on and so forth in financial services. Name some names. Who were they? Who's next?
Well, the entire mutual fund industry is, the Investment Company Act of 1940 is a model of bad corporate governance. It allows the advisor to the fund to pick the board of the fund, who approves his contract, to pick the law firm that will represent the mutual fund shareholders. So every single mutual fund company out there is operating under significant conflicts of interest.
Haven't some of those...
And that's why fees haven't come down.
Right. But in fairness, if I were playing the other side of this, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, in fairness, right, wouldn't the Investment Company Institute say that, well, now and the SEC say that, well, now the majority, we've taken steps to address this, the majority of fund board members cannot be interested parties, they can't be employees or have a management affiliation.
Yeah, but the fact is that the majority, the entire board is selected by the advisor. So whether they're supposedly independent or not, they were selected by the advisor.
And
you shouldn't take any...
And they're paid by the advisor.
You should...
Or they're paid by the fund, actually. They're paid by the fund, but their fees are largely determined by the board, which is selected by, as you say, the advisor. Thank you very much.
But if the
finish your thought.
Sorry. I say if the Investment Company Institute and other lobby groups say there's no problems now, I mean, let's face facts. They didn't predict the problems that were there to begin with. So I wouldn't take any assurance from the fact that the Investment Company Institute says the problems have been solved. Because the Investment Company Institute said there weren't any to begin with.
Mr. Seidel, thank you very much for joining us. Edward Seidel, Benchmark Financial Services in Boynton Beach, Florida. Thank you again.